I hope you're doing well. And so we're journeying through Exodus. In chapter number 23, last time we saw about the different offerings and holy days that they had been given, and the purpose behind all of that in our lives. And in verse number 20, he tells them, "Behold, I send an angel before you to guard you on the way and to bring you to the place that I have prepared. Pay careful attention to him and obey his voice. Do not rebel against him, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. But if you carefully obey his voice and do all that I say, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries." So you see in these first few verses here of this new section that God is making the people a great promise. He says, "I'm going to send my angel," what I believe is a pre-incarnate visitation of Jesus, the Son. He says, "My name is in him." He's going to lead you as the pillar of the cloud and the pillar of fire. We're leading them step by step. Again, God is reinforcing that he's going to continue to lead them, and he's going to lead them into the place, what we refer to as the promised land. He goes, "I'm going to bring you to the place that I have prepared." But then he reminds them, like, listen, this covenant that we're in means that you pay careful attention to hear and obey, to keep covenant with God, to not disregard him, to remember that they belong to the Lord. And so too, we who are new covenant Christians, we too remember we are not our own. We were bought with a price. When we were guilty, he redeemed us and we belong to him. And so the journey of life on earth is to hear the voice of our beloved, the one who is sovereign over us, the one who desires our best, to hear his voice and simply obey, knowing that he has only what is best for us. He says, don't rebel against him, for he will not pardon your transgressions. So this covenant was very conditional. He says, "For my name is in him, but if you carefully obey his voice and do all that I say, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries." He says, in a different way, the same thing he had told them when the Egyptians were about to pin them up against the Red Sea. He says, "I will fight for you, only you be silent." He's telling them, I'll fight for you. If you obey me, if you follow me, I will be the one who goes before. I'll fight for you. In verse 23, he says, "And when my angel goes before you and brings you to the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites, the Hivites and the Jebusites, and I blot them out, you shall not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do as they do. But you shall utterly overthrow them and break their pillars in pieces. You shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and water, and I will take sickness away from among you. None shall miscarry or be barren in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days." Now think about this. They are a people that he's already shown as unique unto him. He separated them in Egypt in the land of Goshen. He blessed them. They grew, they multiplied. Then a Pharaoh who did not know Joseph enslaved them. And then when he brought the plagues on Egypt to deliver them, he made a distinction between his people and the Egyptians. And it was all about God demonstrating his power over those that were those that he redeems out of slavery. He says, I'm going to blot them out. In a very real way, friends, I don't have to worry about my enemies. I don't have to worry about my adversaries. I don't have to fight them. God will fight them. All I have to do, and all you and I are called to do, is simply to hear his voice and obey, to keep covenant with him. Because when we live lives that are surrendered to his indwelling presence, he fights for us. The one who calls us beloved children is advocating for us. And he comes against our enemies. And we don't need to take everything into our own hands. We need to simply abide in him. Now, it's something very powerful, because these people who have been called by God, called out of the land that had been filled with idolatry, are going to be going into all of these different tribal territories with all kinds of idolatry. High places, altars, pillars. They were going to be there, and the temptation as they conquered the people would be to adapt or synchronize these idolatrous faiths with a relationship with God, to try and improve on what God was giving them. He says, so when you go in, destroy it all. All that the people worship that you are going to conquer, destroy every remnant of them. All of that idolatry is removed, broken down, scattered. Don't even mention their names. Don't remember them at all. I traveled all over Asia and some in the Middle East, but in Asia, particularly whether it's Hindu countries where there's all kinds of different idols, or in a Buddhist country where you'll see that they put statues of the Buddha in different forms way high up on the mountains for everyone to see. What is God saying? Destroy all of those things, he says to Israel, because I don't want you distracted. Now, we who live and are very blessed to live in America, we don't have these traditional kinds of idolatry places for the most part surrounding us. But remember, an idol is anything that causes us to bow down and serve it. Anything that distracts us from our King and his kingdom. So in that sense, I guess, a home could be an idol. A car could be an idol. All kinds of possessions could be an idol. Status could be an idol. Being well thought of and, in community could be an idol. Because if we are distracted from our divine calling as beloved children, and we serve anything other than the King and the kingdom, we're confusing and we're distracted from our relationship with the one who redeemed us, who bought us. And we're going to see, as we look through Israel's history, that it was these idols, their disobedience to breaking down and removing all of these false forms of worship, that they're going to become a stumbling block later on in their history. for they will leave the pure worship of the Lord, and begin to serve other idols. Be distracted from the one who redeemed them and delivered them from tyranny, and begin to bow down to pieces of stone and to make sacrifices to unknown gods. He says those things can't even speak, answer, or help. You've been deceived. So let's remember, though we are not Jews entering into a new land, let's ask God to show us how he wants to clean house, how he wants to break down, crush, and destroy, and remove every remnant of the things that you and I bow down to and serve that have become a distraction from him who redeemed us, our Abba, our King, and his kingdom. For we owe service and devotion to none other. That's what it is to hear his voice and obey, to keep covenant with him. Let it stir in your heart, and let him expose what must be put away, crushed, and destroyed. Anything that's distracting you from his good will and purposes for your life. Have a great day.